Kurohyou 2 is the vastly improved sequel, in terms of gameplay, of the first Like a Dragon spin-off for the PSP, Black Panther New Chapter. But even with that improvement, it also features one of the worst aspects of the entire Like a Dragon series, with the introduction of the sumo style. So with that being said, can I beat Kurohyou 2 with only sumo? We're gonna be playing with New Game Plus on Extreme Hard, skip the Black Panther 1 recap, and to put a long story short, Tatsuya is suffering from success, so he returns to his home district of Kamurocho. Now, in addition to only using the dogshit sumo style, I can't use start boosting items. I've also given myself the permission to use the Human Torpedo Death Blow, since the recovery animation uses the sumo stance briefly before correcting itself. I reuse Gogotoku Classic. After the tutorial battle, we saved this kid from some third-party gang member called Ashura, and this is why sumo is the worst style in the game, as even when maxed out, it has negative 10 stamina, making Tatsuya run out of breath easier, then negative 1 step speed, which makes your dodges slower, and finally plus 3 endurance, which is deceptive as it gives interruption resistance, not defense bonus. Its attack speed is also just really fucking slow, and on extreme hard every single enemy has Yuki Masumi level of parrying skills. But we persevere through the second part of the tutorial and we save this guy, who turns out to be a Dragon Heat fighter, so we get introduced with the Kurohyou Force, recruited by the son of the guy that blackmailed us in the first game. Luckily he's way less manipulative and way more idealistic, so it's actually the Kurohyou 5s, and we have nothing to worry about, at least for now. But before I could get to the next story beat, I accidentally bumped into a Yakuza member, which in this game, especially in EX Hard, are giga buffed, which, I kid you not, makes them harder to fight than any of the story bosses, especially with sumo only, as I got my ass handed to me in just this one fight. I got my head crippled. It's really fucking insane. I'll only showcase this once in full with this fight, but if you want to see how I got my ass beat on this challenge, I got another video showcasing all that. We then bump into supposed Ashura members and we beat them off. Then we get reintroduced to the GOAT. He retains his AI from the first game, but unlike his first appearance, he's a bit easier this time around, since he's more like a prologue boss than anything, but he's still great. Chapter 2 starts off with disappointing our sister, then help this host guy from getting beat up. Turns out he's Master Sukahara from the previous game. Told us to fight his former student, with his ass, and got taught a new move we already know. So we head over to Goken Gym. Indecisiveness happens, we get ambushed by some thugs. That's somehow still a tutorial fight. Then we fight Akagi from the last game's gang was-up story plot. And so far, none of the fights are egregious, just really slow. We then go back to Goken, more indecisiveness happened, and decided to go back home, meeting our best friend Tenma. So we decided to catch up and head to Hostess Club, right after double teaming a drunk old man and a normal age drunk guy, so we get rewarded by... After all that, Dragon Heat is getting attacked by Ashura. Shinji tried to fight a Dominican and got his ass kicked, before we get informed with the story's framework of 8 fights to determine our fate. Good to see you, Akita. With the first one being that Dominican early as our first true boss. Then another back and forth from Goken and home, which Sukahara takes a good time to ask our help to find his cards. Certainly I won't be collecting his cards in this run, as we now can finally fight the Dominican, and while it says kickboxing here, he actually uses a modified version of your Muay Thai style from the first game, a neat little trivia. So as his punishment for lying, I give him the E Honda Special at my nearest convenience. Also another thing I don't like about sumo is his red heat action. It's just so long for doing the same damage as any other red heat action. But despite getting our head broken, we still won at the end. We then get a spooky glimpse of the underbelly of the story before chapter 3 starts, with a kid shooting another kid, which is apparently something rampant going on over in Osaka. So we head over there with Ryusho to investigate while trying to find Makoto too. That's important. We check in on a hotel first though, to get a room, before double teaming an Ashura thug to tell us where the Ashura headquarters are, and they fight the gods to get Makoto's location. Now this is the first mandatory fight I somewhat struggled against, since the sumo style slow move makes attacks way easier to get parried. One of them even managed to down Ryusho, but I did it first try. I then ran around the place before finding this group of thugs, chasing him down for a group fight. This was also somewhat of a struggle. The large number of enemies that keep spawning for a while can just gang up and pour Tatsuya here. I even got jumped, but I managed to reverse it and won, with a broken head. You'll see that a lot. Probably, who knows. Okay, so my Adobe crashed here on the segment, so I'll just give some footnotes. Someone shot Makoto, but luckily it was rubber bullets, so he isn't dead yet. The shooter ran away, so we need to bust down the club. Fun and beat up the shooter, attempt to fight the next boss, but we need to learn pro wrestling first. Upon entering the Tower of Nightmares, we can confront the guy selling those SF guns the chapter is based around. Now finally, Taichi Suzuki is pretty simple. Despite the electric fences, the only thing that's really threatening about him is his heat charge attack, but the human torpedo just gets the job done. We then get a glimpse of the next boss and then introduced to Nozaki Ryo, a blind doctor with mystical powers, but I'll skip his cutscenes before he gets all Socrates on me. Chapter 4 starts with Tamatsu getting his ass kicked. Apparently he sports a lose streak of 9 matches in a row, which doesn't exactly bode well, but good news is that Shinji is gaining consciousness, so we head back to Tokyo and check up on him. After that we bump into John Yakuza, fought someone else first though, before fighting John Yakuza for real, revealing that it's actually Joan Yakuza. After that we disappoint our sister again and the boys hang around with their girlfriends. The Makoto upset his and we have a group fight before fighting Makoto himself, who's laughably easy as I just bait him to attack and use my super armor to grab and break his back, making him a quadruple amputee. But it didn't hinder him from helping us kick ass despite my shit state, and Makoto got a happy ending. Now, Tatsuya is truly a Yakuza protagonist because he got scammed and fought the scammers immediately after. Ryusha then informs us that the scammers are part of Ashura, of which one of our boys are near knee deep in that web of scams. So we head on over to the florist and get info that it's Tamatsu that's in real shit, because his favorite hostess is in Oba's pockets. So we peer pressured Tamatsu to man up and he fought valiantly before we step up to get the run back. Now sumo versus sumo, but yet again human torpedo does its job, though since Oba is also practically really slow, I'm able to use the sumo punch and kicks on him for a bit more damage. Also, I forgot to mention this from the beginning, but I'm not exactly allowing myself to use sway attacks if I don't have to. That's why you'd sometimes see me not punishing a slow-mo dodge. Finally, Uba gets packed up in a clash with an additional cutscene next snap. Then Nozaki pops up and says ominously that someone will die. Chapter 5 starts with Yuta having some daddy issues and some Chinese people started attacking us. Despite their 4,000 years of Chinese kenpo falling short, their 4,000 years of Chinese cardio are so powerful that it breaks the emulator to actually make this chase inescapable. So we skip over to the Tamatsu fight and give him his 11th loss in a row. So we talk to Yuta from his daddy issues before his Shinko pal is suddenly hit by a fucking truck and he almost became the main character. The only lead we found about this accident is this weird ass guy. So we try getting help from Detective Takenaka, then try to beat info from Nyoka, before finally just asking the florist again. But before we can make do of the info, the Chinese guys from earlier came back with 4,000 years of Chinese run back, before we're up in Sotenbori again. Ryusha almost got Yakuza 2, but luckily he's wearing a bulletproof vest, and we give chase. Now for some reason the homeless guys started attacking us, probably because of the tacky clothes Tatsuya is wearing, and they were somehow really difficult, but I survive, yet again with a broken head. Finally we get to the Tanaka Ichiro fight while he's wearing this ridiculous outfit and a really cool theme. Though yet again I get my head broken, but it didn't hinder my human torpedoes a single bit. Now here's a fun fact about this ball-grabbing nutcase. Besides his fighting style being called military martial arts, despite it being a reskin of Crazy Legs moveset from Def Jam, he's also voiced by none other than Kazuyuki Okitsu, which is the guy who voices Jonathan fucking Joestar in the Phantom Blood anime. He also just dies right after this fight, but we didn't kill him. Before Nozaki says something about us killing one of our friends again. Truly ominous. Chapter 6 starts with us getting jumped by 10 people. Luckily I survived, but before we can figure out why, we help Yuta with his family issues before beating Yuta up for having family issues. So we run around for some clues and found something called Kamuro Underground, and this massage parlor where we met Chiaki, someone from the previous game, and the little sister to Hyuga Show. Since she's a journalist, she tells us that Kamuro Underground is a bounty site, and we report back to HQ. We found out that we're the most sought after bounty, and as we get out to investigate, Shinji called us. He's gone mad apparently and planned an ambush, but this wasn't much of an issue. Shinji does some Blackpill talk, tried throwing hands and even stabbed him, but Tatsuya just soft mocked his ass. Now boss fight time comes around, but before we can start, Nozaki tried to start some shit, but we ignored him. Now Kaze took a while to get down. He hits hard, but most of his attacks are pretty slow, so human torpedo and a lot more RHA are necessary to take him down. After the fight we see that Shinji is doing his best Johnny Joestar cosplay and nothing else. Chapter 7 starts with a Makoto scene and we're informed by Ryusha that we have 10 million yen bets on our name, putting more incentive on this fight. In addition to that, Makoto got charged with battery since he punched a cop earlier. Regrouping at HQ, Minegi, the guy that helped Makoto, committed suicide in jail. Obviously none of us believe that, Makoto especially, as he ran away. But after talking some senses into him, we have a fight to catch. But before that starts, Nozaki shows more of his mystical abilities somewhere. But we got more pressing matters to attend to, like the fight, but it gets interrupted by Tatsuya's sister getting kidnapped. But since we have 10 million yen on the line here, the match can't be postponed as easily, so we have no choice but to leave it to Makoto and fight bootleg Urian. He uses Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but since Human Torpedo can't be parried during his travel time, I just molly up his ass in record time, ending with my head being broken like always. Besides that, we found out Nozaki is the one pulling the strings, so it was a good idea not to believe his bullshit. Chapter 8 is the chapter where we play as Makoto, but since he doesn't have the sumo style, well... No time for mourning now, so we immediately get our run back and fuck Futo up with, you guessed it, Human Torpedo and ending in a head stomp. Still filled with rage, Tatsuya promised to fuck Nozaki up at his nearest convenience. Chapter 9 turns Kamurocho into literally 1984, with the only truly important thing we get from this chapter is more government conspiracies, courtesy of Eureka here, before we mosey on over to Sotenbori and fight Akita. Now, I was able to beat him in 3 minutes, despite being the second in command of Ashura, and having a unique heat tackle. He didn't even manage to break my head. Now, this next part is hell. We need to fight numerous dudes in this tunnel, and it's so fucking ball crushing that I made a 25-minute long video just showing the shit that can happen here. But we aren't out yet, as we fight 2 mini-bosses immediately after, and I died here. Luckily, Kurohyou lets you retry again immediately after, even on EX hard, and even after I scraped this one out, there's one last group fight you need to endure, and I died again. I also tried to cheat using the self-taught style to recreate sumo here, but that didn't go so well. Twice even. But I finally persevered and head back to Kamurocho. Now the final chapter. After some family drama, we raid the Millennium Tower alone. Luckily this long fight isn't as difficult as the previous one in the last chapter, as the room doesn't get too crowded and there isn't as much enemies in here. Though the over-the-shoulder intermission camera here is pretty funny. And we need to fight another sumo guy at the end of the long battle, but that wasn't really hard. We're now at the top of the tower, which means we're gonna face our final boss, that being this freaky swordsman. Now, Jun as a boss fight just flat out cheats. In his first phase, he has a katana, making every attack unblockable. He even put me in a stun lock for a moment, but after we knock his sword away, I got a full QTE, leaving his second phase with much less health. And luckily, his AI is incredibly dumb, and I can just run to the other side and punish him with a Human Torpedo. Nozaki then crashes in, and revealed he's actually the final boss of the game. Tried telling us his sad backstory and even tried to aura farm, but we just decked the guy. And he also just suffers from stupid AI. Well, you can just easily goad him into a while running punish. Do that a couple of times and you'll finish the game with only sumo. Well, that was miserable. I really don't have anything else to say. Besides, just don't try this. The sumo style is bad for a reason. That's all for today though, so if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. You can leave a thumbs down if you dislike it, subscribe if you want to, and bye.